Hi, I'm Allison from Move Smart and Boomerang Pilates, and this is version 2, or the second part of my approach to clocks. And if you've seen the first one, we just kind of went through it pretty quickly, but now we're going to layer it and we're going to go through a bunch of variations that are great for different body types and different reasons for doing this exercise. And we're going to play with a whole bunch of different ways to go. The only thing you need as a prop for this would be a bolster or a stack of cushions or something that's going to help to support your leg at one point. So you're going to start by lying down. You're going to start with both arms out in front of you and both knees stacked. Head and shoulders resting. If this is not appropriate for you to have your head all the way down, then feel free to bolster it a little bit. And then you're going to slide your arm up and around. You're going to let your legs and your pelvis do whatever they want to do. So that might mean that you have quite a lot of movement through your legs and your hips, maybe less. It's all good. This is a very unboundaried, unforced way to move where we're letting all your parts and all your tensions integrate and relate to each other. And you're just going to see how that feels. And then you're going to slide your top arm up underneath your ear, assuming that that's okay for your shoulder. And you're going to do exactly the same thing, keeping your legs relaxed and heavy, doing whatever they want to do. Your head will roll off your arm. You're letting your head turn with you. You're sliding all the way around. So you let your arm drop back as much as feels good to you. There's no forcing. There's no going into a place that's painful. And you can really take note of how your legs are moving. And for the next pass, you're going to put your arm into whichever of those first two positions worked best for you. And this time, you're going to really think about keeping your knees stacked together as you circle around. And you may find that means that your shoulder range is less. That if you keep your knees connecting, your arm comes higher off the floor. And you're going to do 3 or 4 circles like that. And as you slide around, you want to take note of any discomfort you might feel in your SI joints. If you tend to have sort of discomfort through the back of your pelvis, then you want to move your position around a little bit so that that is comfortable. And that might be making your range smaller. On the next pass, you're going to take note of what's happening with your rib cage. So you're going to take your bottom hand from wherever it might be and just feel for what happens. When you circle back, can you feel some movement of your ribs coming forward in towards your hands, or your top hand? So as you go, you're going to think of connecting the top rib on a diagonal line down towards the bottom hip as you rotate so that you don't feel that rib cage flaring, and you can see how much that's changed my range for my arm. I'm not going anywhere close to as far down towards the floor. I actually feel this as a more noticeable shoulder stretch now because I'm dispersing the movement less through my spine and my ribs and my pelvis. On the next version, you're going to take your bolster or your stack of pillows or whatever it might be, and you're going to let your leg rest on the bolsters. And you're going to circle here. And you'll notice that you go back to a bigger range. But this is a different position. We have a different angle at your hip joint. So we're just feeding different parts of your system. And you come around. And now you're going to really deliberately stabilize your knee. You're almost pushing your knee down a little bit into the bolster and making sure you're not moving your pelvis as you twist. And as you go, you can feel for what that does to your ribs and your spine. Do you get more movement through your torso when you're not moving your pelvis and your ribs? And that's sort of what we would expect to have happen, so don't feel like, oh my gosh, that's what's happening and I'm doing something wrong. And again, this will be changing what happens in your shoulder. So you need to modify. So you might need to bend your elbow if you've got like real uncomfortableness happening in your shoulder joint. You maybe don't go so far back. And on the next one, you're going to add that layer of dropping your ribs in as you come up. So you've planted your knee and your pelvis, and you're connecting through your ribs, which means the bulk of your movement really does need to come through your upper chest and spine and that kind of part of your torso, which will again change what you're doing in your shoulders. And all these versions are good. It's not like we're progressing to a best one. They all have something to offer you. The last version, this is optional, right? If you feel like this might be too challenging for you for some reason, then you would not be doing it. But now you're going to really deliberately plant your knee all the way down into the floor and not move your pelvis and not move your ribs. So we're kind of putting all of the boundaries in together, which for me means I'm right about here in terms of my height of my arm away from the floor. If this is not comfortable, you could bring your leg up a little bit on a smaller cushion or just go back to the bolster. And now find your sweet spot. Find the place where you feel like you're getting the best stretch through the front of your arm and your shoulder across the front of your chest. And just keep the ribs stable and still and heavy as you move your arm, maybe 3 or 4 inches. You're not moving a long way. Just up and down. Feeling for, maybe there's some strength work in here because you're holding your arm a little bit off the ground. Maybe it's feeling like a really big stretch for you, in which case, see if you can make sure you don't go into like a 9 out of 10, oh my gosh, my arm is going to pull out of my shoulder socket stretch, and keep it more in like a 5 or a 6, more manageable range. And then you're going to slide your arm all the way down and around. And last time, sweeping up and over, finding your sweet spot, settling your knee down into the floor, stabilizing your pelvis and your ribs, and just doing that little smoothing, right? Just if you can think about this arm movement as smoothing away any sticky spots. So again, we're not looking to go to a place where it is not doable for you. One more little smoothing. And then slide your arm all the way around, back to your starting position, and then roll over onto your back. Legs down heavy on the floor, arms out by your sides, palms facing the ceiling, and see how you feel from side to side. So for most people, you're going to feel like the side that you've just been working with is heavier, longer, more open, wider, some kind of sense that this whole side has opened up. And as I said, all those versions are useful, but you need to stay with the ones that feel like they're the most useful for you, which could vary from day to day and time to time. So if some of them feel like, oh, that's too much, or you have a shoulder issue that means you need to not move your arm in quite so much sort of boundaried range of motion, then you would stay with some of the earlier versions, and always find ways to move your arm that allow you to feel like you're getting something that is beneficial and awesome for you. And then I would suggest you run this all again and do the same thing on the other side, or you're going to feel very uneven. So have a great day. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know, and please enjoy. This is an amazing sequence and series for, I find, for headaches, for neck stuff, for upper mid-back stiffness, for menstrual cramping, and I've said this before, but I find this a very settling, I find rotation a very settling, emotional approach. I really like to do this kind of movement. So I hope you like it, and we'll see you next time.